Hey, welcome to Chapter 11. Chapter 11 is all about values. How do we choose the values that we're going to function by and operate by? And that's what we're going to spend some time with right now. What is a value? Well, a value it acts like a guide. It's what we believe most. It's the things that are most important to us. Have you ever tried to cut a sheet of plywood without marking it or having anything to guide you? Well, what happens is we might take the circular saw, if that's all we've got, or a jigsaw, and start cutting at the bottom. And by the time we get part way up, we're going to probably be a little bit wiggly, or we're going to be angling off this way or angling off that way. We are not going to get that sheet of plywood, cut exactly in half. We're just not going to do it. We need a guide. So what we do is we take a tape and a pencil and we make marks down the middle, and then we use a square or we use some sort of a straight edge to make a guide that we're going to follow. Once we have that, we have a line down the middle, we know if we're off a little bit or if we're going this way or that way, and we can correct before it becomes a big deal. And that's what a value acts as, a guide. So when we start maybe just weaving a little bit, we start compromising on the things that matter most to us, the guide brings us back into line. That's what a value is. That's what a value does. Now on page 86 of your book, you're going to find a list of potential values. There's well over 100. I think there's close to 200 or just a little over 200 values listed here that I want to ask you to work through. To take a look through, take the time and choose out of those several hundred. You'll notice here I've got hundreds written down, and then it goes to 10. What I'm going to ask you to do is to move from the hundreds of values, narrow it down to the 10 that matter the most to you. That's going to take a little bit of work because there's a lot of good things in that list. There's really very few bad potential values in there, if any. And so it's going to take some work and some thought. And if you're doing this by yourself, it'll take some thought on your own. But if you're doing it in a group setting with your co-workers, it's actually even a little bit more difficult. But you need to agree on the top 10. What are your 10 most important values? The things that matter most to you as in your company, in your organization, on your crew. What are your top 10? Then it's going to get a little bit tougher because I'm going to ask you to take it down to 7. You need to eliminate 3 of your top 10. Get rid of them. This is going to take, if you're working in a group, it's going to be hard. It's not easy because they're all valuable. They all matter. But you're going to need to reduce them down to 7. And then comes the hard part, taking those 7 down to 5. And that's where I want you to end up. What are your top 5 values? The 5 things that matter most to your organization, to your company, to your crew. Above all else, that come life or death, you're going to hold on to these 5 values. They're going to be your guide. And you'll notice the circles get bigger and the numbers get bigger as we reduce the number of values that you are going to be holding, because they become more and more important. As you end up at 5, those are your big 5. Those are the things that no matter what, you're not going to let go of. They're not going to disappear. You're not going to be willing to compromise on them. They're going to matter most to you. Suppose you underbid on a job, and you know it, and you get the job, and then the customer expects you to do the work that you promised you'd do in your bid. But you know you underbid. Your employees know you underbid. What do? Your values determine the choice you're going to make at this point. Our values are so crucial in helping us make the decision of how we're going to function. It really was quite frustrating for me, though, to leave some of the values that I did on the table. There were some that I really thought were important to me that I had to whittle out of this mix to get me down to 5. It wasn't easy, but it's worth it because these are the 5 that we're going to work by and we're going to live by. Now, lots of companies have done this. This is an exercise a lot of companies have gone through. But the difference being this: when they do that, they put them on a nice sheet of paper and put them in a frame and hang them on their wall, some on a wall somewhere in their business. And that's the last they're talked about. Or they put them in a file and they put it in their drawer and they label it values, important even. And they never look at it again. Maybe a year from now when they're cleaning out their files, they go, oh yeah, that was a good exercise. Or was it? Because unless we put them into practice, unless we talk about them continuously, it's a waste of time and it makes people cynical. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in chapter 12. But it's going to be crucial for you to go through this exercise with your crew or with your company or with your organization. What are your top 5 values? And if it's a small group of you who decide what these are, then what you need to do is you need to get them out there to people. You need to talk about them all the time. Or one of our values is loyalty. One of our values is quality. One of our values is production or honesty or integrity. You need to be talking about them. And we'll talk about putting them into practice in the next chapter. I'm not going to talk much in this chapter. I'm done because you've got a lot of work ahead of you. If you haven't done it yet, you need to go to page 86 and go through those values carefully and take them down from hundreds, take them down to 10, then take them down to 7, and then take them down to 5. Your 5 values that matter most, that you are not going to compromise on, no matter what happens. So good luck. You've got your work cut out for you here. It's not easy, but it's worth it. And the question to ask yourself as you're starting this process and in the middle of it and close to the end of it when you feel like quitting and just saying, we've done enough, is how good a leader do you want to be? How good a company do you really want to be a part of? And then push through. It's worth it. Go through the exercise and put in the effort. You'll discover the value of it once you're done. We'll talk to you in chapter 12. Good luck.